Greetings everyone. So in this video I will be making a biotope styled setup for my Celestial Pearl Danios or Galaxy Rasboras. Here is my colony of CPDs temporarily housed in this small tank. They are actually breeding in there, and I have some fry in this tank here. I actually saved them. There are just a few of them. Eventually all of this fry will move into this tank, and any further offspring that they will produce will also be housed in this smaller tank, and the colony will move in this larger tank. This is actually a tank that I've made myself from IKEA shelf glasses, Ultrastar, apologies for my Swedish. And yeah, this is a DIY tank. It holds approximately 45 liters of water, and it will be unheated setup just like this one. There's no heater in here. There's a sponge filter, and I will have a similar sponge filter in this tank as well. The idea is to try to recreate a biotope style setup for CPDs. Obviously there's very little information available online about the actual biotope where Celestial Pearl Danios live in Myanmar. There are no photos, and there's very sketchy and limited information about plants, about the type of hardscape that is found in the natural biotopes. And I've done quite a bit of research, and I will do my best to replicate those conditions in this tank. So without any further ado, I will start working on setting up this aquarium, and hope you'll follow me on this journey. So the goal is to have elevated substrate in the back of the tank, sort of imitating a river bank, and in order to elevate the substrate I will use these mesh bags with lava rock. I could have used some other type of substrate to have an elevated bank, but this is what I have, and this is what I'm going to use at the moment. So I'm planning just to sort of place them in here. The other reason why I'm doing that is because I don't have enough sand, so I want to sort of substitute the lack of sand with this. As substrate I will be using this light natural river sand. It's not a fine sand, it's more like a fine gravel type of substrate, and in accordance to the photos that I was able to find of Salvin Lake, where the CPDs originally come from. So in that sort of a biotope, the substrate is made up of this of a very similar type of sand, which is sort of a very fine and smooth gravel of light color. And yeah, let's see how this works. And the other thing that I will add to this substrate, yeah, definitely not the cat, is a bit of aragonite. I could have added some coral sand as well, but I have this aragonite, and I will be using this instead. The reason why I'm adding this to the substrate is because CPDs like harder water, alkaline water, not necessarily very hard water, but something with pH above 7 and probably KH and GH above 10. The problem for me is that my tap water is exceptionally soft and acidic, and I know that if I don't use any buffer, any natural buffer, the pH will drop, and the water will eventually become here really acidic, which is fine for most of the fish that I keep, which are mostly South American fish. But and currently these CPDs actually live in relatively soft water, and they breed in soft water because they're obviously tank raised fish, and they're very adaptable. But still I would like to recreate this sort of a natural looking conditions, and with potentially harder water. Probably this is not going to make my water really alkaline, but it will probably affect the hardness and pH. So I'm going to mix aragonite with sand, and obviously aragonite is much whiter than the sand, and it stands out a bit, but I think as soon as the substrate will be underwater, and as soon as sort of it will get covered with algae and detritus, it will not look very noticeable. And it's been day 2. I couldn't really record anything because the battery on my microphone was down, so I'll just get you briefly through everything that was done yesterday. One thing that I didn't film is I added these pieces of lava rock with Japanese pennywort attached to it. It's hydrocotyle tripartita. It's not biotope correct, but it looks very nice as an undergrowth, because the idea is to make this transition. I will add a lot of moss, various aquatic mosses which I have in here. It's a Christmas moss, Java moss, and flame moss and spiky moss. They're all mixed up. I will add them to this area here, so there will be a transition from mosses to this undergrowth to taller plants. So this is the idea. The sponge from the CPD's tank has been here overnight for almost 24 hours, so the tank should be cycled. I will also squeeze it out one more time to sort of release all the bacteria. In terms of filtration, I've opted for a rather unconventional option, which is a plain ordinary airstone. I decided not to add here a sponge filter, primarily because I have a lot of lava rock in here, which will provide plenty of surface for beneficial bacteria, so I don't need any biological filtration. I don't really need any mechanical filtration also, because I actually want to build up this layer of silt, layer of dirt on the bottom, and because this is a gravel, much of the dirt will sort of pass through it, going down to the roots of the plants, and this is what all of these plants actually need, a nutrient-rich substrate. So I'm going to try to create that nutrient-rich substrate by depriving this system of mechanical filtration. One more thing I'm going to add before adding more plants and before moving CPDs from their temporary tank to this beautiful setup are a few of these fertilizer bowls. These are pond fertilizers, and they would be great for root feeding and sort of a nutrient hungry plants as such. I'm going to squeeze out this sponge, sort of releasing all the dirt into this tank, all this bacteria, which will help this system to get established. Yes, it's gonna look dirty and it's gonna look not particularly nice, but this is the bacteria that this tank needs desperately in order to create a stable and established ecosystem, and the sponge is clean. We're going to wait a few minutes before adding more plants, moving some water from the current tank into this tank, and probably adding a bit more of clean filtered water. And this is the next day after I added fish and finished scaping the tank. The CPDs seem to be happy, they have already settled. Unfortunately, I've lost quite a few of those wild type Neocaridina shrimp which I've added yesterday from the tank in here. And I guess because this is a fresh tank, it's not established, and normally Neocaridina shrimp do not do well in very fresh setups, but that is to be expected. And later on I will add shrimp here, or maybe I will not add any shrimp because that way I can make sure that all the eggs that this CPGs produce will be safe and not eaten by the shrimp, but they could still be eaten by the fish. So nevertheless, this seems to be the current state of this setup. And the few fry which I had previously in one of those container tanks have been moved in this small tank where the CPG colony used to live before. Well, of course, this biotope is not 100% accurate depiction of their natural habitat, but all the main elements are in here. So the clear water, light sand, more or less biotope correct plants, Elogia densa, Sagittaria, and some mosses. Well, we'll see how it's gonna work, and whether the water will stay a bit harder because of the coral sand, because of argonites that I've added to the substrate. And we'll see whether these plants will get established and will start growing. So yeah, that's what it is for now. At least CPDs look happy in here than they were in a smaller tank. And yeah, I'll keep you updated on how this setup develops and matures. In the meantime, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet, and please leave any comments whether you like this setup or whether you'd like me to add something else in here in terms of plants or in terms of decoration. So I'll see you in further videos.